What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, we have a friend of mine. I met him down in Costa Rica when I was doing the Pura Vida retreat. His name is Rome, and he's an interesting guy. Him and I, we sat talking one morning, and we just went off way into the weeds. I remember that we were sitting around in a big group of people, and we started talking about all kinds of random stuff. And it was all over the place, and it was a lot of fun though. And I remember, like, everybody had already left the room, and we were still talking. And so I definitely wanted to have him on the podcast. I didn't know that at the time he was involved with so much. He has a nonprofit down there. I knew that he had a gym, the BJJ Heroes gym that we trained at down there, but I didn't realize at the time that he ran it as a nonprofit. So he runs a nonprofit down there, and it's really cool. He'll talk about it in the podcast. And we also get into, a lot of, in this podcast, it's all over the place because, again, both of us, him and I, are both like, we're all over the place. And we talked about a lot of holistic approaches to, living and lifestyle, and how he recovered from injuries using a mixture of soft tissue work and supplementation with like turmeric and things like that. And again, it's really interesting. So just make sure that you kind of buckle in and stay with us for this one. And but it's a really cool podcast, a lot of cool nuggets. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And let's get started.
Good, bro. All good. Just hanging with the family, just enjoying life.
Where are you at right now?
San Diego, the whale's vagina.
The whale's vagina. Why is it the whale's vagina?
San Diego. Anchorman.
I think in Anchorman they called it the whale's vagina. That's what it means.
Okay, I've only seen.
I don't really think that's what it means.
I've only seen Anchorman once.
Anchorman's one of my favorite movies.
What are you guys drinking?
Tea.
What kind of tea? I'm drinking tea.
I don't know. So
it's definitely got some cinnamon in it. I think it's like some sort of herbal tea.
Yeah, my wife is like a big tea connoisseur.
I like it.
Yeah, she's a massage therapist, so she got really into teas. We have our own, our own business, so she always serves different teas to the clients and stuff. She's always tinkering with different teas and blends and all that. So
I love it. What kind of business do you guys own?
She's a massage therapist. I'm a PT, so physical therapy. And then we got, just some other stuff, infrared sauna, and we've got yoga coming pretty soon. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man. It's been kind of a dream of ours for some time, and so we've been.
I bet.
Yeah, I've been trying to get that going. So Chewy met you in Costa Rica.
Yeah, at my academy.
Yeah, and so you don't live in Costa Rica. You live in San Diego right now.
All right, so I moved to Costa Rica 4 years ago, a little bit more than 4 years ago, and it was going really well. But my wife's my father-in-law got sick with cancer, and he had a really big tumor, and they turned him down for treatment on the East Coast in New York. So he went down to get treatment in Mexico in an alternative cancer hospital, and it worked really well. And we wound up moving to San Diego because it was more sustainable to help him get treatment. But yeah, I love Costa Rica.
Can you explain the whole, you just kind of skimmed over, like they refused to treat, or what does that even mean?
He had a very large tumor in his lungs, and he went to Sloan Kettering, and Sloan Kettering told him, he did around the chemo, and it like burned out his brain. Like it just like fucked him up, like chemo is like putting fucking lava in your,
it's fucking poison.
It's like putting lava in your, whatever. Long story short. So last ditch effort, we decided to try a clinic in Tijuana. The first 2 weeks, they reduced his tumor by 30%. The second 2 weeks, it was like 60 or 70, and then eventually it was 90. But then a few weeks ago, actually, on my way back from Costa Rica, he passed away from a heart attack suddenly.
Oh wow!
So
sorry.
the cancer didn't get him.
But something else did. What kind of, like, so when you say alternative treatment, what exactly?
Anything that's illegal in the U.S.
Well, of course it's illegal because it doesn't make money. But like,
sure.
What kind of treatments would they do? Is there any insight to it?
Yeah, there's like ozone therapy. There's IPT. There's they follow the Gerson protocol, which is founded by Max Gerson about 100 years ago or so.
Right, and that's like the Max Gerson thing. That's like it's like cold press like juices and like organic vegetables, no meat. I thought I remember like coffee enemas being a thing about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my favorite way to drink coffee.
Dude, Chewy gets on these coffee enemas and it just goes on rants about it. All right, well,
but to tell people though, they're like, you fucking weirdo, right?
Yeah,
but it's like
it's the shit, bro. Literally.
Yeah. Describe what a I don't know what that is. I know what an enema is.
We don't know what you know what it is.
I know what an enema is, but what's
klezma, bro? It's a klezma.
I know, I understand, but how do you do the?
So you prepare the coffee in a specific way for about 12 minutes. It takes about 20 minutes altogether. You let it cool down, and that's your concentrate, and then you can mix that with a little bit of distilled water. So about 1/3 to 2/3 distilled water, and you hang up your coffee enema bucket. I like the buckets instead of the bags; they're a lot cleaner.
Yeah, it's metal.
Yeah, and then you lay down on your left side. You take a little bit of coconut oil, or if you're fancy, you can get like some herbal oils. I like herbal ones. I have some rosehip oils that I enjoy putting on my bunghole.
Fancy.
Yeah, you got to go fancy. I mean, if you're going to take care of your butt, you might as well take care of it in a fancy way.
Yeah. So why the coffee though? What's special about the coffee?
It's actually very special because one, it cleans you out, right? Like Napoleon Hill, the writer of Think and Grow Rich, actually wrote about it over 100 years ago. There's apparently texts that Jesus wrote about doing they weren't coffee enemas at that time. They were just regular enemas. But coffee, it stimulates like your liver.
Okay.
You produce glutathione, which is the strongest antioxidant that we have. It's like the master antioxidant. So, and it's getting rid of a lot of like the stuff that you're detoxing if you're detoxing other stuff. Like I've been doing a cleanse for the last 2.5 years. Start and stop, right? Like parasite, heavy metal, candida, this, that, and the third. Lots of stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I'm gonna do it. All right, I said it. I'm gonna try it.
It's weird stuff to talk about, but you know, the thing that got me to sort of get on sort of that idea is just try it. Right, I've gotten to this idea like, look, I'll try things, you know, because a lot of times it's one of those things where at first, when you see things kind of start to come out, like I remember when fasting first started sort of coming out, everybody's like, oh, don't fast, it's a terrible idea, you're going to lose all your muscle, and it's blah, 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 right? And now everybody talks about fasting, right? And it's like, just try it and just do your thing, you know, like just
I've gained weight from fasting.
I'm
not joking. Like I've legit put on muscle from fasting. It's crazy.
Wow. So how frequently would you recommend if somebody's trying to do like we'll get off the coffee in a minute, but if somebody's wanting to try it, you know, how frequently?
I mean, just do it. All right. So the best way to do it, I used to do it like once a day, 3 days a week or whatever, but the best way to do it is to bang out like 2 in one day or 3 in one day, right? Because like the first one gets rid of like the first part of the obstruction, whatever the obstruction is, and then the second one is like when it really starts to cleanse.
Now, do you got to? The thing is, I've seen guys like doing like once a week, whatever. But do you have to be kind of careful with that because I know that you don't want to get over caffeinated. Does the caffeine kind of go in the same way? For like when you drink it, opposed to when you're doing the enema.
I don't think it feels the same way.
Okay.
I never feel it in the same way as I do when I drink. Like I've done it in the evening, like before bed, and I was able to fall. I mean, not directly before bed, but like in the evening, and I've been able to fall asleep. So.
Okay. Well, because I remember, like, was it Luke Kumo? He got.
I know he is.
Yeah. Back in the day, he had a fight, and then they I guess they like. They slapped him on the hand for like when he did his test because he had like really high levels of caffeine, and he was like, it was from a coffee enema that I was doing for his weight cut. So I was, so
yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm sure maybe in the blood, but I definitely don't feel the effect.
I got you.
Like that.
Cool.
It's definitely, I mean, for the Gerson diet, they do 5 to 6 coffee enemas a day.
Yikes.
So,
Yeah, so obviously it can't be too crazy.
yeah.
So what got you kind of on the sort of the path of sort of more of a holistic approach to, your body, life, everything else?
So I was really sick when I was born. I was born in Chechnya, and I was super sick when I was born. I mean, there was like some sort of
What year were you born?
87.
87, okay.
Yeah. When we came to the US in 91, we were immigrants, so like we didn't really have shit. We didn't really know anybody. Like you won't hear that like people like that people from Chechnya. Like there's only like a million people in like the main city, and like a lot of them didn't get out when the war started. So when we came down, we didn't have anybody that we knew that could tell us like what to do. So we went the route that I guess immigrants go when they don't know anybody, where you go to all the doctors and you get all the treatments, and they jack up all your Medicaid and your Medicare or whatever, depending on your age. And they just injected me all types of shit, bro. Like I had allergy shots that I was getting that have heavy metals in them twice a week for like 6 years, 7 years. Yeah, so I used to get sick maybe 3-4 times a week. I mean, a year with strep throat. So I would have to take like amoxicillin, like really heavy antibiotics, and it destroys your immune system.
It does.
So I started training Thai boxing when I was 12 years old, and I just couldn't like sustain it. Like I had a lot of potential. I just couldn't I couldn't sustain it. Like I didn't know what to eat. Like nobody talked about that shit 20 years ago that I knew. Like we didn't have the internet. Like you'd have to like really rummage and search, or maybe luckily stumble upon somebody. But it worked out really well because I kept getting sick. I got to follow a different path, and I kind of like grew up like the street life. And then when I was 20, I found Jiu-Jitsu, and I fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu, and I just wanted to train all day, but I couldn't. I kept getting sick. I kept getting ringworm. I got staph infections. I kept getting like just beat up. I just couldn't like sustain the training because I was so sick for so many years. So then I started like looking into diet, looking into proper drinking, proper breathing, proper eating, like testing stuff, like reading books, absorbing stuff. And then like it kind of like spiraled from there, right? Like it's kind of like your first leg lock. Like once you see it, like you just keep going deeper into the black tunnel of the devil's lair.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because you were talking about, antibiotics, and obviously antibiotics have saved so many lives over the years, and they're amazing when they're necessary. But a lot of times they get used as just kind of a catch-all where people feel like, I've heard people before where they'll like, back in the day when I was working in an office, like someone would have like a sniffle and they would say, "Oh man, I need to go get some antibiotics from the doctor." And you're like, "No, you don't." Like, it's like it's like you're killing everything, good and bad, and it has a long-term effect on you that you don't understand, other than just, okay, it killed some bacteria. Like it did a lot of stuff in your body, and if you need it, you need it. There's no way around it, right? Because it can save you. But at the same time, if you don't need it and your body's healthy and your body's working the way it should, then a lot of times your body can fight off some of the more sort of benign things that are there, and you can leave your immune system intact instead of destroying the whole damn thing.
100%.
So absolutely.
Well, that's what your body's meant to do. It's meant to fight off that shit. And it gets like obviously
hell yeah.
Like some of these things like staph, where all right, you got to get a little help with that shit. But that's the way your immune system, fighting off like basic things, smaller things, it gets it stronger and makes it function more normally. I mean, it's just kind of common sense. Like I don't know. I think for me, I was sick when I was a baby, and they gave me a bunch of antibiotics, and I was allergic to it. It almost killed me. Yeah. So I had to figure out something else. But I don't know. I still don't take like penicillin. I can't take penicillin or anything like that. But that was, my experience with antibiotics. But I've always been fairly healthy. We have kind of, the healthcare system, like, I guess Chechnya. And for me, I was born in Russia, and I came when I was 6 years old. The healthcare is kind of different. I think when we're in those other countries, it's more like you do cupping, like banki, and you do just different stuff, like a lot like more
mixed with traditional Chinese medicine, right? Because we're so close to the Chinese.
Yeah, a lot of holistic, a lot more so like cupping. People get cupping all the time now. Like that shit, I would see my grandparents do, on each other, on their backs or whatever when you're sick. You have like a cold or whatever,
Right. But then but just going back to what you were talking about, how there was none of that stuff around, if you would have, first off, like I said, the internet wasn't around, but then if you were to find someone that was doing something like that back in the 90s or something.
Can't afford it.
Can't afford it. Or people would look at you like you're friggin' crazy.
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh my God, you're so weird. What are you doing? And then it kind of comes around, and it's a lot of times like where you'll see this anecdotal evidence, and then later on science kind of digs in and says, oh yeah, so here's why this is working. But they come back afterwards after it's been, already in place.
Yeah. And I think healthcare is kind of doing this, it's coming back around to more holistic type. People are trying to get away from all these medicines, all these drugs. They're just trying to get into more natural, like foods.
Because people realize it's fucking killing them.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at, like shit. I mean, there's so many people that are overweight, sick, diabetes, all that stuff.
What is it? Like 68% of the United States is overweight, and I think 30-something% is obese.
Well,
like past that marker.
Now with the overweight part of it, like I don't know what they're basing that upon, because I remember like when they had the
BMI thing.
The BMI, which was
but this isn't based on BMI. This is just based on weight.
Okay, good. Because like the BMI and the weight thing says I'm like I'm a fat ass. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But we're not taking into account like density of muscle and everything else.
100%.
So
That's the main thing. And so when you have a lot of more athletic population, you're gonna have them as overweight or whatever. But
but then like the athletic population is just so fucking small in the U.S. that like it's almost like such minuscule numbers at this point. Like we pay attention to it because it's in our periphery all the time. Like CrossFit, Jiu-Jitsu, like it's in our world, right? Like our Facebook, our Instagram feed. But like the reality of the U.S. population is like somebody sitting in front of the fucking TV just drinking beers all day and eating fucking Hostess cakes. That's and pot dogs and shit. Like that's, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like they're more than welcome to do what they please, because survival of the fittest or the survival of the most adaptable is still the reality of our situation in this world,
Yeah, I like the fact that, there's things that are more readily available now, and there's more research coming out, and more people, like even Chewy, you've been doing that, the breathing and stuff, and that's been something we've incorporated, and you've incorporated in training. And you mentioned something about that too. How did that come about for you, the breathing?
So actually, let me go back 2 seconds, right? So we talked about staph infections. I've killed 4 staph infections with 0 antibiotics in the last 11 years.
Did you use like tea tree or something?
No,
Silver?
Oregano oil.
Oregano, okay, yeah, okay.
So I got this tattoo, and then I didn't have any instructors. They called in sick in my academy in New York. So I just came in and I taught a class and fucking got a staph infection. It was an open wound, like staph is everywhere. I had a golf ball size, like almost like a tumor on my elbow a day later. I went to the hospital and they're like, bro, we got to stick you on like IV antibiotics. And I was like, nope. I walked out and they're like, you're fucking crazy. So I was in school for holistic nutrition at that time, like while I was running my first academy. So I was like, I'm going to fucking, and my wife was like, put this on. Just do this. 3 days, nothing. Like literally everything went away. I was drip dropping it right on the actual wound and then taking it orally.
Okay. Yeah, I've used oregano oil. My girlfriend's really big into the oils, and at first, like when she started like exposing me to them, I'm like, this is such bullshit. And I remember like one time I had a headache, so we put a little peppermint on my temples. Headache went away instantly. There was another one where I remember my stomach was hurting, like didn't feel. I was nauseous, and she gave me this other one, and stomach ache went away. Tea tree oil's gotten rid of like I've had like ringworm before. Tea tree got rid of it. There was one time I had a wart. Right, I just had a wart pop up, and I was like, "Fuck, I don't want a wart." It's like it's a blemish. And then I put some oregano oil, and just damn thing fell off in like a week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like, it's again one of those weird things where I'm like, you weirdo people. Oh, there's another good one. One of her friends had like a blister on her mouth or something, like a burn or something, and she said it was burning, and it was like whatever. She put some lavender on it, and it was just boom, done.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Wow. So it's I'm not surprised by it.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't think I've ever used that before, ever.
Yeah,
it's really important to use an extract. With those kind of oils, it's very important to have a standardized extract, so you're not wasting your time.
Is there
We
like
have,
where would you recommend somebody get? Is there a certain something that you use?
it's funny. It's like I used to use an oral one. I still do
Uh-huh.
from time to time. But we actually put it in on one of our formulas, our resilient formula. We have all the herbs, all the herbal extracts that we use for like anytime you're getting sick or just to keep up your immune system, and organic mushrooms. So we have oregano oil in there, we have astragalus in there, we have echinacea in there, we have olive leaf extract, and they're all hitting the immune system from different angles because the immune system has a lot of different layers, I guess. I guess that would be the best way to put it, like layers. So it hits it from all these different layers, and yeah, it's pretty badass.
Do they know how the compounds affect the immune system and like how they support it?
Yeah, Doc talks about it. I think he put out a video talking about how it supports it.
Okay.
I can link it in this episode.
Yeah,
I'll send you guys some
it's
stuff.
it's like Dr. Stern, right? Because I've got
Yeah.
because you sent me some of the supplements and I'm playing around with them right now and trying them out to kind of see. So, yeah, so Dr. Stern, Stern.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
have kind of some supplements that you're actually working on or you use.
I had 4 herniated discs in my back,
Uh-huh.
and I had a torn rotators on each side,
Okay.
among other injuries. Like I tore my hip, I hurt my ankle.
So they
So
want
doctors wanted to fuse my neck
Yeah.
at 22. And I was like, I'm not doing it. And they're like, you're never going to train jiu-jitsu again. Just keep that in mind. But like, at least you'll have a neck. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing it. I went to like 11 other practitioners. They all either wanted to do that or cortisone shots. I didn't want to do that. Like I read the effects of that at that time. I was in nursing school at that time. So I seen people coming in with certain injuries and certain problems. And I was starting to get skeptical of the whole conventional medicine system or the Western medicine system, whatever you want to call it, potato, potato. And I put out a post on Facebook and I was like, does anybody know a practitioner that can help me even a little bit alleviate the pain? I was super depressed. Like I wasn't training jiu-jitsu for like 3 months, 4 months. I couldn't sleep because my neck hurt so bad. I was like trying to find the right pillow. I was looking for the silver bullet in the pillow. And because that's what we do, right? We're jiu-jitsu guys. We're like, well, it's got to be this one thing that'll fix it.
Right.
I
think that's everybody, right? Like that's why everybody looks for the pill, the magic thing. You know, it's always like this one thing that's supposed to fix it, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And this girl is like, hey, my boss said he can fix you. Come by the office today. And 2 months later, I was training full time.
And what did he do?
He's a chiropractor, nutritionist, strength coach, and he does a lot of soft tissue work, like a lot of soft tissue work. I actually, when I was training at Marcelo's in New York, Marcelo was really beat up. That's why he retired really early. I sent him to Dr. Stern, or technically I sent Dr. Stern to him after I got him to agree, and he put him back together. Dr. Stern is a beast. He has guys from the NFL, the NBA, his professional boxers just flying in, and he sets up their nutrition. He takes care, like he's a holistic center on his own, and he's an animal. Like he's been doing this for 24 years. He's been on like 3 vacations. He just like loves this thing.
Yeah.
And he's a savage himself. Like he's just always like looking for new techniques. He's developing stuff. He's always researching. He's just like obsessed, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's becoming more and more common, or at least it's becoming at least more popular, where a lot of people are looking to find, physicians or doctors or health practitioners that look at the body as a holistic whole, right? Instead of saying, hey, like something's hurting, let's cut into it, or let's treat the symptom. It's like, well, there could be other things going on there. Like, let's take a look at your blood work. What's your diet look like? All these things, instead of just, because again, like, and it's an unfortunate reality because a lot of, it's an unfortunate situation because a lot of times, for instance, we were just talking about the sort of obesity level in the United States. One of my old students was an emergency room doc, and he would have people come in and they would say, they're 600 pounds or 500 pounds, and they would say, oh, my back hurts. can you give me some pills? And he would have to, and the thing is that instead of being able to say, well, you need to lose weight and that's why your back's hurting, people, those doctors, they get judged, and it's asinine to me. These doctors, they'll get judged on whether or not the client, the customer, the patient is satisfied. Where, like, for instance, there was one of my students where he was frustrated because this woman who had a young son come in, he's like 3, had a little bump on his head, right? Just a little bump, no big deal. And he looked at him, everything seemed fine. He wasn't out of sorts, just a little bump. She wanted to do a full scan on his head. And he was like, and he looked at her, he's like, that's an unnecessary amount of radiation to put on your son so young. Why? And she wrote up a unsatisfied report about him. And then the 3-year-old son, air quotes, 3-year-old son, wrote up an unsatisfied report. And so he gets dinged on that. And I'm like,
impressed. He can write.
Right. Well, we obviously know he didn't write shit, right? He's 30 years old. But it's crazy because these people, like, instead of looking at their body as a whole, they're like, my back hurts. Well, you're 600 pounds. Right. Or, sure. I don't feel very good. You're eating sugar at every meal. Like, of course you don't feel good. Like, that's a big thing. Instead of, or like you said, getting into like the soft tissue. Well, my neck hurts. Well, there's a bunch of muscles that are tangled up there and they need to be like pulled out and they need to be adjusted. And instead of just being like, hey, let's cut into you.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot. I mean, yeah, you hit the nail on the head, really. You have to get it from all these angles. Like you said, you have to understand that your back pain, is probably partially it's because you're overweight. Partially it's because you're overweight, probably because you don't exercise, and then because you don't eat right, because you're not getting, if you're overweight, you're probably not getting good sleep. I mean, all those things. It's like you got to start somewhere.
Because your job sucks.
Maybe.
And because your job sucks and you're sitting in front of a fucking computer all day.
And maybe you're stressed out about that shit. Yeah, 100%. Like all that stuff. It's not like, hey, come over here, I'm going to show you one exercise to do, or you're going to take this pill. Okay, so you're going to take one pill and it may alleviate some of your symptoms. It's not going to get to to the fact that you're compressing your spine by being overweight and you're sitting all day.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like, you being honest with people, you tell them shit they don't want to hear. And it's hard to, me as a physical therapist, like, I always I look at my patient or my client, I'm like, I look at, are they overweight? How do they move? Like, what are they doing? And then you wait for them. Like, I personally wait for them to bring up the weight conversation. Like, if they're overweight, they mention, a lot of people that are overweight will mention that they're overweight. They'll say something about it. And then when they do, you kind of follow up with that. Because that is, like, if you can get that shit under control, it's amazing how much better you're going to feel. Like,
well, 100%.
And if people just move, I know that you're big into movement, right? And the physiological effects of movement, like, because when you look at nature, right? If we were stressed, why would we be stressed? Why would be? Because there's like some sort of situation that's become life or death, and we need to move. We got to climb a tree. We got to get our ass moving, right? Something's going on, but we have that stress response, like you said, at shitty jobs or from factors through life, and then we don't move. We sit down, we go home, drink the beers, eat the Hostess cakes, sit at the computer, and we don't move, and we're just building up with stress that has all these negative effects on our body. But just getting some simple movement in, man, like, changes the physiology of the body. You're producing everything from endorphins and dopamine to norepinephrine, all these beautiful chemicals that we want, that you literally get from like drugs, and all you got to do is move around a little bit.
Yeah. Well, even think about, I just thought of this, but think about like the whole postural component. We talked about this too, about the hormones and the what your body produces with posture. Think about when you're sitting at a computer, you're like this, you're rounded.
You're
forehead,
weak.
Rounded shoulders, you're rounded.
Your body knows.
And your body gets in that, like, almost like it feeds into like depression and then like those cortisol and all that bad shit. And then, like, if you stand up, move, chest up, you talked about this.
It's all connected.
100%.
Body and mind's all the same.
Hell yeah, it is.
So I know that you did some movement training out there, and he's pretty popular now, the Ido Portal guy, right? So I don't know much about him, but I know that he's popular with his movement and stuff. How did that kind of come about?
When I was really injured, or when I was like still nursing my injuries, I mean, Dr. Stern got me back on the mats, but I still had like that, I guess, fear that I was going to get injured. Cause like, yeah, he put me back together, but like there's still shit that I'm missing. There's gaps in my life that I would like to fill. And that's kind of like that's why I started my entrepreneurial journey, essentially, because I wanted to train with like the masters of these things. Like I wanted to go train with Wim. I wanted to go train with Richard Bandler. I wanted to go train with Ido. I wanted to go train with the Jiu-Jitsu guys that I wanted to train with. Like I wanted to taste it. Like I wanted to see, like, is it what I think it is, if that makes sense, you know, like, or is it just a fucking, like, a ruse?
Yeah,
and most of the time it's just a fucking ruse.
Are
you
they
know,
real?
like, people are great at marketing. Yeah, 100%. But there were a few teachers that consistently stand out in my life that I'm very grateful for, Ido being one of them. Wim, like I trained with Wim, and we did like an expedition in Spain with Wim. Yeah, like these guys, like they walk the walk, you know, like they work their asses off. Like, yeah, it's a lot. Like jiu-jitsu is very complex, right? Like I've been doing jiu-jitsu now 11 years, and like there's complexities upon complexities. It's a very infinite universe. Like there is a Keenan Cornelius out there right now that's coming up with new moves. There's Joe Schmo, who's 12 years old, who's coming up with a new position right now.
Right.
Like as we speak, you know what I mean? He's homeschooled, he's drilling, like he's 13 years old. He has nothing to do but to think about jiu-jitsu. Movement is even bigger, right? Like the idea of movement it's all encompassing, right? It's almost cheating to say like movement, right? Because like jiu-jitsu is just a microcosm of the larger movement, like dance and gymnastics and walking and breathing and essentially anything, right? Like anything falls into that giant bubble of movement, especially in Ido's world. Like he tests everything. So yeah, I started training with him. I did a few seminars. I did an internship with him in Thailand last year. It's great stuff. Like you just have to do it.
Cool.
Like you just have to like, not you. I mean, like you just have to like practice what it is that they teach. You know, like you teach a move. If the student doesn't drill it outside of class, like they're not gonna fucking.
Of course, you got to practice it. It's consistency.
How did that affect like just your jiu-jitsu and just anything, your life in general, just doing the kind of movement techniques that he showed you? What did you notice? What improved?
I'm able to retain more. I think better. I think clearer. I created a lot more neural connect, like just new neural pathways in my brain through the movement, right? Like every new movement that you learn makes you more intelligent.
Yeah.
Some of the most intelligent people that I've ever met have been through sports, right? Like through jiu-jitsu, through movement, like hyper intelligent people that aren't like posh hyper intelligent people. Like they're not just overly cerebral. Like they're intelligent intuitively, they're intelligent cerebrally, they're intelligent physically, and spiritually too, right? Like it kind of like goes hand in hand. Like if you want to enjoy stillness, like the best way to do it is through a really rough movement practice and then enjoy stillness afterwards, right? Because that's essentially what yoga is. And some of the best yogas are like rough. And the only reason that they're rough is they want to fuck up your mind so bad. So when you go into Shavasana,
you're just
like,
there. You're done.
You're just there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
There's nothing else to do. It's just that.
Yeah, it's like jiu-jitsu. Like after a really hard training session, like a like a seated meditation after jiu-jitsu, you know, or you can just call it closing your eyes and being still. If that bothers you, but it's the best. You know, people are, meditation's weird, but okay, call it sitting still. It's like the best because you're so exhausted that your mind is just quiet, and it's amazing. And you know, you were talking about being intelligent. It's really interesting. I read a book recently, and they were talking about again the changes that happen through exercise. And literally, the guy he made a sort of a joke. He was like, if you could bottle up everything that exercise does and put it in a pill, right, and give it to people, you'd be freaking rich. Because I mean, there's so many things. And like you were talking about intelligence, they found that when you combine movement or an exercise, that also combines learning complex like patterns, like new ways of moving, that it not only builds up the body physically and improves all that stuff, but it also aids in things like neurogenesis, like the creation of new brain cells and new neural pathways. And it basically, if you want to think of it, it's like a bench press for the brain, right? Because your body's having to learn new stuff. And so you're, just as your physical power and output goes up, your brain power is going up. It doesn't mean that you're going to be, sitting in doing algebra equations or something, or, calculus equations, whatever. But it means that you have an intelligence in you that was not there before doing these things. And 100%. I agree with that. Yeah.
That's interesting, because I never thinking about movement, I was like, oh, you're going to move better. You have more flexibility. You have more mobility, whatever. But you're like, I have better mental clarity. That's so interesting. That's not an answer I expected.
I'm a visionary. Like what I do, like in the businesses, like I'm a visionary. Like I create stuff, right? Like in jiu-jitsu as well, like, but also in like my like career businesses. And it requires mental clarity. Like I get paid to think better, right? Like, so I try to do things. Like my journey started because I wanted to do jiu-jitsu more. So I needed to optimize everything outside of jiu-jitsu to make jiu-jitsu better. Mm-hmm. Like I had to leave jiu-jitsu to make jiu-jitsu better for me personally. Mm-hmm. And I think like that was my journey, because I also, I understand that in order to achieve something, you have to sacrifice something. And if you want to achieve something really big, you have to sacrifice the thing that you love the most. So I stopped training jiu-jitsu for almost a year to learn like other skills to make my jiu-jitsu better, if that makes sense, to come right back to it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's changed my jiu-jitsu on a very deep level. Like if we're just talking about the microcosm of jiu-jitsu, that I can walk into practically any class in the world, probably any language as well, and understand what they are teaching without feeling like confused, which in the past, because I was limited in the complexities of my physical training, I wasn't able to grasp like complex ideas as well, like physical, like I guess movement koans or physical puzzles, whatever your inclination is for description. All right. It's changed everything for me. Like I'm able to grasp techniques just by watching them visually and not only kinesthetically. Like I improve in jiu-jitsu even when I don't train in jiu-jitsu.
Rome, man, I wanted to ask you, so you kind of brushed over a little bit. You had all these injuries and stuff. And you said, oh, yeah, they healed. Like, how did you, what did this doctor do? What did you do exactly to, get over some of these injuries, because that's crazy. And for me, I see a lot of people, I work on people that train with me, do jiu-jitsu. There's always tweaks and pains and sometimes injuries. So, like, what did you do exactly that was unique?
A lot of soft tissue work. He basically adjusted a lot of my fascia, got it like flowing in the proper movement that it's supposed to flow in my body.
So like myofascial release, is there a certain technique he used?
Yeah, he creates his own techniques essentially. I mean, he's been doing it forever. So he has he's the only white guy that I know that's been cupping forever. Like he said, he's been, like, from what I understand, he's been cupping for like over 20 years already. So like he's always been pulling from different sources like traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, and he's always researching.
Yeah.
A lot of like turmeric extract. I've been taking a lot of turmeric extract these last like 10 years. My first nutritional company was an organic turmeric company. So like anything that aids in anti-inflammatory, like, cause you're going to get inflamed, like training, right? So, and if you train, like when you're inflamed, like you might get injured, right? So it just becomes like this cycle of injury that keeps happening. I was icing my spine a lot because my spine was super inflamed. I cut out a lot of nightshade vegetables from my diet, all of them really. That got rid of a significant portion of my inflammation. I mean, the fight is, there's two fights, right? One fight for athletes is cortisol. The other one is inflammation. Outside of those two, like you're pretty good, because cortisol encompasses all the stressors externally and internally, and inflammation also external and internal stressors that cause it. But a lot of it is what you're putting into.
You said you cut out certain vegetables. Can you tell me what those were?
Yeah, they're nightshade vegetables. So tomatoes, peppers, not black pepper. So all of the spicy peppers and the sweet peppers too. What else falls? Eggplant. Basically all of the vegetables Russian people eat on a regular basis. I had to cut those out outside of cucumbers.
What's the reasoning behind that? Like the sugar content, or
no, I mean, there's a few perspectives like that talk about it, but essentially nightshade vegetables have like the energy of the moon, and some people have a bit of an allergic reaction to the substance that's in nightshade vegetables. I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Okay. Well, it's like it's one of those things where a lot of times there's foods that are healthy, that we think of as healthy, and either they have in them compounds that typically are used when, like, let's say this plant's growing.
So solanine is the word.
Okay, so like I imagine it's there for typically, like, for instance, if an insect comes to eat on the vegetable, it has a defensive compound. When we eat those, sometimes they can be beneficial because they can stress our body a little bit and it can be okay, and then other times they can create other problems.
Okay,
like one, for instance, is if you're going to eat oats, you should soak your oats. If you eat quinoa, you should soak your quinoa, because if you don't, there's compounds in there that when you digest it, it's not going to make your body happy. So, for instance, with lectins, and then with oats, you typically have phytic acid, and so you need to break that down. It's the same thing with, like, I think with spinach. When you cook the spinach, just lightly cook it, it'll break down the oxalic acid, and then your body, it doesn't bind to the same minerals and leach out of your system. So there's a lot of those foods that are really healthy, but sometimes they have to, not always, but sometimes they have to be prepared certain ways, or like you said, some people are more susceptible to them than others, and if you're susceptible to nightshades, which they think a fair amount of people are, when you cut them out, you might notice that the inflammation in your body drops.
Yeah, like beans, I think you pressure cook. You need like a pressure cooker for beans. It gets rid of, I think, the lectin, I believe.
And soaking them too.
Right.
You can soak them also and then pressure cook them, right? Like if you take two of those tiers. So once I did that, that cleaned up a lot. I mean, I put together a whole book, like a small book on inflammation, like years ago, of like all the steps that I took to get rid of it. I mean, essentially, it's just like, that's the battle, right? Like if you're an athlete, that's the battle. If you're not an athlete, if you don't move much, your battle is calcification. It's essentially like the other end of the spectrum. But you have to choose one. Like you can't have neither.
You're wearing out. You're gonna wear out. You're gonna rust out.
Yeah, like you got to choose. And I'd rather wear out. Like I'd rather wear out. I'll choose inflammation over calcification any day. And you know what? Like I just turned 32 a few days ago, and I literally feel better than I've ever felt before in my life, and I'm training more than I've ever trained in my life. And it's like all of it is lifestyle. And the way that I approach training too, like on the other end of the spectrum, if you work with a lot of athletes, it's like really urging them to stop being pussies and have the balls to go against the grain and do their own warm-up before class and do their own cool-down before class, because they're all a bunch of fucking pussies in the sense of like, oh, but like, what are they going to think about me if I'm doing this weird stuff before training or after training, where it's just like, come on, grow a pair of balls. You're grown up. Like, you know what feels good and you know what doesn't feel good. Do stuff that like feels good for your body long term. Yeah, because most jiu-jitsu academies do 0 warm-up, 0 fucking cool-down.
Right. What about strength training? Do you do any kind of strength training?
Yeah.
What do you like to do? What's your go-tos?
Right now, I hurt my knee about 2 months ago, training in San Diego. So I was doing a lot of like lower body work, mostly with body weight. I have 10 exercises that I was doing. So I was starting out with Bulgarian split squats, then jump squats, then single leg pistols, then single leg squats with the knee tight, like kind of like shrimp squats. What else? Lunges in different directions. a few other things, right? And then like I would do them all like one after another, and I would do it for multiple sets and just destroy my legs to build stability and strength,
Right.
so I can avoid the injury. I also do a lot of routines that I learned from Ido, like the bamboo leg. There's a bamboo legs routine. And I do every single day. I do joint mobility and like joint flossing.
Yeah.
So every morning I wake up, the first thing that I do after I hydrate is I do mobility work. And it's 15 minutes and that's it. And then for the rest of the day, like I'm less prone to injury, period, until I go to sleep at night. I'll still do another warm up before I go train, but like no matter what, those 15 minutes, and then probably another 45 of like strength work, like that hour is like my hour in the morning. And then whatever other training I do is like that. So kettlebells, I work with kettlebells a lot. Swings, Romanian single leg deadlifts. I do snatches, cleans, clean and presses and snatches. Those are primarily most of the stuff that I do, and pull-ups.
Yeah.
So outside of that, I pretty much hit all the angles, and I do Hindu push-ups. So just to kind of round out that aspect of it. But outside of that, like we don't really need that much like other stuff. Like that pretty much hits every major and a lot of minor muscle groups. And for the the super minor groups, like the small muscles on the back of the shoulder, like around the scap and the delts, I'll hit some Cuban rotations, and I'll do some a lot of band work I do too.
Yeah.
But like outside of that, like you're not going to see me spend 2 hours at the gym getting swole. Like,
well, it's not as functional to what your needs are, which is jiu-jitsu. Like, and a lot of the stuff that you're talking about after a knee injury is really good. The single leg things are really, really good because it's not just a strengthening component, it's proprioceptive and balance component. You're giving a lot of feedback to your brain and your like stability. You're basically forcing your leg to balance and stabilize and react and to the different stresses of your body and how your body shifts. So that's really, you're hitting it from a couple different angles, not just, when you're using both feet. So I think that's something when you have an injury is super important, because when we're doing jiu-jitsu, we're changing directions, or that's important to do so your body knows what those movements are and it's familiar with those movements essentially.
100%.
Yeah.
And I started doing parkour.
That's crazy.
I found the parkour academy.
Jumping over buildings and shit.
Well, I mean, right now I'm like,
I saw you doing some backflips on your Instagram and stuff.
I'm working on it, bro.
Yeah.
My
awesome.
kids wanted to do parkour, so I took them to parkour, and I was like, this is awesome. They have systems. I love like places that have systems. I don't I don't want to be your first experiment in figuring it out, in teaching. You know what I mean? Like, I want a proven system that's been working for a significant amount of time. When I look for teachers, I ask, my first question is like, has this person done it? Can they do it? Has he taught other people to do it? Have they and then the third one is, have they systematically pumped other people through that process where they can successfully show like a body of work? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I went there and I was like, wow, they have systems. They have like a book and like, this is what you need to do for this level and this level. And I was like, oh man, this gets my dick hard. Like, I love shit like that. I was like, sign me up. And like, he's like, oh, so what do you want to learn? I was like, the most basic shit ever. Like, tell me like what I need to do. My work ethic is unfucking paralleled to people you have met. I told him, like, show me the thing that you want me to do. I'll do it for the next hour. That's it. He's like, okay, go on this slack line and fucking do this tightrope walking for the next whatever hour.
Oh, those are fun.
That's crazy.
But like, how good is that for your knee too, right? Like, it's
it can be good. It can be terrible if your knee sucks. For sure. Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, dude, I feel like do you have kind of like an obsessive personality about stuff? Like, do you kind of...
I'm very upset. I'm obsessed with being better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, even a little bit. I just want to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
I just want to be better.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you, because you kind of, I know you're involved with like supplements and things like that, and obviously there's a lot of junk out there. You know what I mean? God, it's so bad. Like you look at supplements and you'll see like proprietary blend and just means whatever the fuck they want to put in there is whatever it is, right? You don't know what's in there. So I know that you're involved with supplements. What are some things, you know, again, that kind of, again, as you're saying, you want to be better at everything that you can be, right? So when you're doing supplements, what is it that you're trying to do with your with your supplements that you're putting out there that you're trying to get away from the junk, and how are you separating yourself from that, like with the quality and everything else?
Yes, perfect. I love it. Like, so I treat everything the same way that I treat myself. So I want everything to be better, and I want I don't which I guess is a problem for like some people in my life, where I don't what's the word that I'm looking for? I don't like yield.
You don't compromise.
I don't compromise. Like I don't have like compromises for anything that I do. Like I just like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do it. Like there's no like that. Yeah. Like that's why I wanted to talk to Chewy, because I like Chewy. Like when we talked, I was like, oh, this guy's got a sexy brain. Like I'd like to talk to him, you know?
Sexy brain. That's first
awesome,
for me.
bro.
I've never been told that I had a sexy
shit,
brain.
Bro.
Wow.
When I started this journey, I was looking for supplements, and they all have all these fillers. They have magnesium stearates. They have silicon dioxide. They have like all these soy and parabens and like all these like things that are just like unnecessary. So many of them have like corn derived ingredients that are essentially GMO ingredients. Man, there is so much shit in supplements. It's crazy. Dairy, they have dairy ingredients, which essentially are all pumped full of antibiotics. And then they have gluten inside of all these supplements, like not all, most of these supplements. So
yeah, when we're talking about junk supplements, right? So
yeah. And you know what? Like a lot of these high-end companies also put in their shit, right? And I'll explain why. It's not because they don't give a fuck. It's because the manufacturing facilities that they work with use these extra ingredients as flowing agents to smooth out the flow of the powder or whatever in the machines. Basically, it's to protect their machines. They don't give a fuck about you, the end user, right? Like, so for years, I've been like literally at the throats, like my team and I have been at the throats of the manufacturing facilities. That, like, we've worked with probably like 10 to 15 different manufacturing facilities in the last 6 or 7 years that I've been like doing this, and a lot of them, they won't compromise to like what we want, and we don't compromise to what they want. So it's either a standoff or I go find somebody else. So in the last few years, we've really like dug deep and honed in on like what we want exactly, and we've started to create them. In the last 2 years, we've really like dug deep and started to create them. And man, all right, so just to give you an idea, right? Like proprietary ingredients. Why do people use proprietary ingredients? Well, they think that they're being cute by writing proprietary ingredients, because like they still write all their ingredients. But what the thing is with proprietary ingredients is they don't have to tell you which one is like, which one has which amount. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like organic turmeric extract is very expensive. It's probably one of the more expensive ingredients in all of supplements across the world. Why? Well, because it has over 5,000 research studies on it from all over the world. Like there is immense amount of data on turmeric extract and how it helps people with rheumatoid arthritis, arthritic conditions, inflammation. It helps to make their brain better. Like it's incredible. Like I use it every single day for the last 10 years. But if you're using a proprietary blend and you write that you have turmeric extract in it, but you have 15 milligrams, that's not scientifically efficacious like amount of turmeric that you should be taking. Most people don't fucking know. Joe Schmo that's starting to exercise for the first time or second time or third time in his life, it's like, I heard I should take this turmeric.
Right.
And they just buy whatever fucking brand they see with all the additives. They feel like shit afterwards, and then they're like, this shit is garbage.
Doesn't work for me.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. It's like, dude, our blood is so, like, we are so similar to each other. As different as we are, like, we are eerily similar. And certain things, like certain things work across the board. Like, I have yet to meet the person that from long-term use of turmeric has not benefited. I just believe if they say that they haven't benefited, they, one, don't have the discipline to take it every day. They're not taking the right amount. They're not taking the right company, or they haven't taken it for the duration necessary for the stage of their health that they're in. Does that make sense? Because like, if you're super inflamed, because most people, so remember when we were talking about obesity and overweight, most people that are fat, they're not really fat. It's not fat that they have. They're just inflamed. They're super inflamed. And like that inflammation, it makes you big. You know what I'm saying? Like when you hurt your shoulder, it gets inflamed and big. Imagine loads of it increased with toxins, right? Because fat just essentially like holds in so many toxins inside of your body. So then like you have this person who looks extremely fat, but I don't know if that's the right word to use for their condition.
Well, essentially I think you're talking about it because obviously they're holding, extra weight that they shouldn't have. But obviously not just that, but on top of it, like, I guess the body stores a lot of the nasty stuff inside of that extra fat that it has. Right. And so I think that, I think I've read with when they go into fasting, right? Like they say that a lot of times they get like really like kind of as they're losing this weight, because as that fat's being pulled out of the fat stores, it's also releasing not just the fat itself, but also all these chemicals and nasty stuff that's been sort of held up.
And you could die. Like if you don't detox properly under the care of somebody, or at least get educated enough to become that somebody that can actually take care of you, like you can hurt yourself really bad and die. Because if you have too big of a toxic release when you're detoxing, like it can hurt you. Like if you're not taking the proper steps to mitigate those toxic effects, the Herxmeyer effect, essentially.
Herxmeyer effect. I've never heard that before. What is that?
Yeah, it's a Herx reaction. Like if you detox too fast, or if you do like some sort of treatment and like you feel like shit, like you literally feel like you're this close to dying. Like I've experimented with a lot of different like detox tools, I guess, or medicines or whatever, and like some of them have brought me to the brink of death. At least that's what it felt like.
Okay.
Wow. It's just your body kind of freaks out, I guess, because it's just.
I mean,
it's taken out of its like of a.
It's a die-off reaction. It's essentially a die-off reaction, because a lot of these toxins, let's say you're cleansing parasites, they give off like stuff as they're dying inside of your system, and it can hurt you or kill you, or maybe worse, right? I don't know.
Okay.
Well, and I know that like. For instance, like I did this was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I did a particular diet to sort of root out the candida in my body, and like I was taking chlorella and spirulina and all this stuff, and you couldn't have anything with any sort of sugar in it and whatever. It was brutal, and I remember feeling pretty funky about it. Then afterwards, I felt good. And even when there's even an addictive element to things like food. I remember when I first started doing any sort of fasting protocols, I remember just feeling like, just awful. And my body was just like, give me food, give me. It was just like the same feeling you would have with an addict, right? Like, give me. And it took a long time for my body to just chill out and be okay with that. And like, it's all right.
Sure.
Man. So, yeah.
What are you using now? So like, what if somebody wanted to get a good turmeric extract supplement, what would they get? What would you recommend?
We have a company. It's called Dr. Ian Stern. And we have 4 products that are out right now, and we probably have another 3 or 4 being launched this year. Dr. Stern has 3,000 to 5,000 patients on a like regular rotation, like not every day, obviously, but he gets to test all of these supplements. So we have a company, and this company does something very unique in the sense that the first person that tries a formula, because like we don't just release stuff. Like a lot of companies, they come up with an idea, they don't test anything. They're just like, this looks cool, we'll put it together. Here you go. Like just because these two ingredients work really well separately doesn't mean that synergistically they're going to work better. They might work worse, or they might hurt you.
Sure.
So
because they can even fight for, and so with some vitamins and supplements, if you take them at the same time, they could be great on their own. But like you're saying, in some instances with like, I forgot some of there's different ones, but you need to take them separately because they'll fight for the same pathways to be absorbed and everything else. So
yeah. I mean, like look at some of our supplements, like I would take on an empty stomach. Some of them I would take with a fatty meal, right? Like turmeric, you want to take with fat because it absorbs better.
Okay.
So the first stage of our testing goes to Dr. Stern. He tests it first, and he's like, "Oh, this is awesome." I mean, he thinks a lot of stuff is awesome because he's just like a savage. Like he trains all day. Like he's really into it. Then the second layer is our team. We have 4 more guys on the team, and our spouses and stuff. So we test it on ourselves. So that's layer 2. The third layer after that, like once it passes stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 are his patients. He tests it on like his high level athlete patients. And then he tests it, if it passes that, he tests it on like average people that work like 9 to 5s. And then we roll it out to like our primo customers that buy from us all the time. So, and then before it's fully rolled out, we test it through this thing called the NSF. The NSF tests the facility, and then they test the supplements. They send it to a third-party manufacturing facility, or a third-party testing facility that tests it for like heavy metals, which a lot of supplements have. Like just because it's not written on the fucking ingredients, because it won't be, like because where they source it can be shit.
Right.
Like so heavy metals, toxins, bacteria, whatever, like fungus. And then, which is a very rare step, I only know of one other company that does this. We send it to this place called BSCG, which is the lead testing facility for Olympic athletes, NBA, NFL, the UFC. Like we're able to work with UFC fighters. We're able to work with Olympians because our products are tested every batch, not like once, but every batch is tested for almost 500 different banned substances.
Okay.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. We want to do it right, the way we want to do it for other people, the way we would want it done for us. And it's never been done like that for us. So we had to do it ourselves. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm definitely like, I did take turmeric for a while and I had some decent effects, but I'm curious about, doing the turmeric extract for sure. I'm gonna have to give it a shot. I mean, I'm interested, because it's something that I think for me would be beneficial. And then if it works for me, I'm definitely, people I work with, family, stuff like that. I mean, I think it's a no brainer for me to,
I'll send you some, bro.
All right.
Yeah, I'm doing a test run right now. So they Rome and his company, they have one. The Regenerate is it's Regenerate, isn't that's the joint supplement?
Yeah.
So I'm trying that
like
one.
The inflammation and joint.
Yeah, I'm trying that one because that's one like I can definitely tell like with some of the joints that have taken a little bit more abuse. If something works, I can typically tell it because I'll cycle on and off of stuff because I'm like you were talking about Dr. Stern, like he's a savage, right? So for me, like a lot of times my girlfriend, she laughs at me because I can will something in my mind to make it work. Right, so I'll take it and then it works. So I usually have to stay on it and then get off of it first to see if I feel an effect.
Yeah,
before I make an assumption,
Smart.
Right? And then, but then there's some other ones. I know you have a probiotic supplement. You have another one, the resilient one. That was the one with the oregano oil that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the
Relax.
Relax, right? That's the one that I'm interested in because. I've been becoming more and more mindful of my evening routine, like turning my phone off. I'd foam roll before bed, read, and then like just wind down with like low dim lights. And I've been taking the Relax along with my CBD oil at night to kind of just wind down.
Yeah, I love it. It's changed the way that I recover. I've been taking it for over a year now, the Relax. The other formulas. The Rebalance I've been taking for almost 2 years. I just take breaks on the Rebalance. I try not to take the same type of probiotic for more than like 3 to 6 months.
Cool.
But yeah, man, I love it. I use it every day. My wife uses almost all of them every day. She doesn't use Relax though. She's already got super low cortisol.
Okay.
But yeah, bro, I mean, we believe in it. Like we believe in it. Like I believe in it wholeheartedly. And I don't know. I want everybody to try, and it might not be for everybody, you know, like not everybody, everything doesn't work for everybody because everybody's, like I said, so different, but they're also very similar.
Right.
We're a lot more the same than different.
So if someone's interested in checking out like some of the stuff that you guys have going on, what's your website address? It's
Dr. DRIAN Stern, STERN.com. So DRIANSTERN.com.
Cool.
And I set up a coupon code for whoever is listening to this if they want to try it out. It's Chewjitsu, CHEWJITSU.
Simple.
And it gives them a 10% off on anything that they purchase.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. And after I get done with my my dose, and I'll make sure to share the word, just, you know, good or bad, I'll just share how everything went, you know, because like I said, I'm trying it out right now, and I've discontinued all my other supplements that I normally would take to see, okay, like how do these work? Do I feel any better or worse compared to when I was on the other stuff? So
yeah, I want everybody to give it a fair shake. You know, like I want people to like really, because we're always adjusting stuff too. Like we're not perfect. We don't know everything. Dr. Stern is a crazy researcher too. So like there's the Regenerate formula. Like he put an ingredient in there that I've never heard used before.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff in there.
Yeah, like for example, so Dr. Stern came when I first met Dr. Stern, and eventually he got me training. I was like, when I start training again, you got to come to my academy. And on the first day that he came to my academy, he had some guy locked up in his guard. Like the first day I was teaching hip bumps, and he forgot to open his legs and tried to hip bump the dude and tore his rib cage, like tore the cartilage on his rib cage.
Oh man!
And he's a chiropractor, like he's a practitioner. Like he's not just like some guy who got a doctor certificate and then started a supplement company, because that's like a lot. That's like the majority of it, you know, like they use it. So he was taking all these like nutrients, and he had to come up with new ways to adjust, because every time you adjust people, he would pop his rib cage out. Like his rib would come out, and like you can see it pop out. And my grandma, who was alive at the time, was like, hey, you should get him some mumio. And mumio is like this black tarry substance. The Chinese call it shilajit, and it's from the Himalayas. It's like the tears of the Himalayas. And it has all of these incredible minerals inside, and it helps to speed up the regeneration of tissue.
Okay.
So he started taking, I got him a whole bunch. He started taking it. His ribs healed up 2 or 3 times faster than they should have. And since that day, he was always thinking about it. So when he was formulating this formula, he's like outside of having the highest concentration of turmeric per serving on the market, he wanted to put shilajit in there. But that's not even the weird ingredient. Like that's weird right now in this conversation, but the weird ingredient in there is bamboo stem extract. So people take collagen, like a lot of people take collagen, but the thing is most collagen is not bioavailable. Like you can't, like it doesn't absorb well. So you're shitting most of it out. So he did the research, and he figured out that bamboo stem extract is the most bioavailable form of something that will turn into the collagen inside of your body.
So basically so those mixed together is going to help you absorb it better, essentially. In theory.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, he's like the guy to be able to like describe it, but essentially like it's the most bioavailable form of silica, which in turn turns into like the collagen inside. It supports the elasticity in the joints and the connective tissue. Like essentially what you want collagen to do, but it doesn't fully do it.
Okay, cool.
Huh.
So
yeah, it's interesting. We're gonna have to do a little research after. I'm gonna have to research some of these supplements too. I'm pretty interested.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he has tons of videos. He puts out content all the time.
Is it on his website as well?
It's on his YouTube and on his Instagram. I'll send you guys links to
Awesome.
all
Yeah,
of
we'll
it
share that
just to
for
make
sure.
it just to make it simple. He's an awesome guy. Like he's just like literally like one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Like
That's
I
awesome.
love him. I think he's amazing. I wanted the whole world to like see him and feel him and like see what he has to offer because he's such a unique individual. And I thought, why not create a health advisory company essentially and create supplements and information products to put him out into the world? Because like he belongs on a world stage. Like he is incredible. Like he's just so like he's so good. He's cut from the same cloth. Like if you want to improve every day, you know, most doctors that you see, they know everything already. Like they're done learning.
They think they do.
Yeah.
For sure. But they're done learning. You know, like they're done.
Never. Can't ever be
Never.
done, man. So, Rome, man, that's awesome. Thank you so much. So, drianstern.com is the website. And then we're going to do some research, man. We're going to try some of those
Go for
supplements out for sure to get a good idea.
Yeah, I'll send you some.
Thank
Just
you,
send
man.
me your address.
Yeah, for sure. And so, San Diego, we didn't get a chance to touch on, if you can just mention Hero Academy is your nonprofit. Just give us quick information on that.
Yeah, we moved to Costa Rica 4 years ago, and we've seen that there's some jiu-jitsu. There's a few academies in Tamarindo, but we've seen that there's a lot of poverty there, and a lot of those academies were geared towards like the affluent community in the area. But there was a lot of kids in that area that don't have shit. But we didn't really want to open up a jiu-jitsu academy right away. I had one in New York. I didn't really want to open up a jiu-jitsu academy, so we decided we're going to help people in a different way. We're going to build somebody a house. That somebody's house is all fucked up. Actually, we didn't know what we were going to do. But somebody called us and they were like, hey, this woman has 6 kids. She's pregnant with the 7th one. And her house has a hole in the roof. So when it rains during rainy season, which is like 4 months long, they all huddle in a corner in the room on their dirt floor.
Man.
And try to avoid the rain with snakes, scorpions, spiders, and all of the above. So we built her like floors and a roof. And then we were like, fuck, look at all these kids. And you know what the first thing was that they did when we built the concrete floor? You'll never believe it. The first thing, they fucking rolled a toy car across the floor because you can't play with toy cars in the dirt.
It's crazy.
The things we take for granted.
Dude, that's why, like, remember when you were like, oh, like technology, like, that's why, like, I don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've seen it. Like, I've seen that shit. Like, and I'm like, wow, like, we got it good. Like, this is nice, bro. These headphones, these are nice. Like, this phone, this is nice. I got shoes, bro. We got a girl that came into our class 3 weeks ago that had holes, like, burned in her feet because her shoes had holes and the floor gets hot as fuck. So I was like, wow, like, we can't just keep building houses. Let's like, these old, like, people that are old, like, they're useless. You know what I'm saying? Like, even us, like, we're old already. Like, we're not the next generation. If we're talking about the leaders of the free world, like, it's got to be the kids. So I was like, all right, let's try this jiu-jitsu thing to teach these kids jiu-jitsu and see where it goes. Like, let's teach them, like, some personal development through the vehicle of jiu-jitsu. Blew up. Like, we had, like, 5 students at first and then 30 students before I knew it. We had to get a new space, and then 60 students, got a new space. Now we're up to like 100 and change, and we take them to like tournaments. Like, these kids have never left their hood before, ever. Like, they never left that little shithole that they were in. We take them to 5-star hotels in San Jose, to tournaments. We take them out to rest. Like, we let them taste that shit, because if you can't taste it, if you've never felt it, if you've never touched it, you'll never have it.
It's not real.
Yeah, you'll never have it.
Yeah.
Like, the first thing that they tell you when you want to, like, make money is, like, go touch it, go feel it. Like, go to an open house, go sit in a Bentley.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, go figure that shit out. Like, go, like, it'll only become real. We have so many stories. Like, so many of our girls in our program have been abused. You know, like, a lot of the kids in our program are girls. But they're savages now. Like, they're animals. We have the number 1, number 2, I think number 6 and number 9 competitors in the whole country the first year competing. Because, like, for us, like, I don't even care about the jiu-jitsu. I just want them to be disciplined, focused, and have self-respect. Because if you can respect yourself, you can respect other people. And the jiu-jitsu is easy. Like, if I can teach those things, like when Sean came into our class, He came into our beginner's class and he's like, holy shit, these kids are fucking so disciplined.
Yeah.
We run such a tight ship, like very militant. Like the way that I treat myself, I treat these kids, and they respect that because most of them don't have father figures. And like, that's what a father is supposed to do for you. You're supposed to like endear those qualities of discipline and like confidence and like these strong traits, like the masculine. And that's what I want to give them, like the masculine, but also with the touch of feminine, with a lot of love involved too.
Well, it's
like we love all.
Well, it's a generative masculinity, right? It's not a masculinity of just being overbearing, but rather like you're trying to give them something, a generative sort of slant to it. So you can be incredibly masculine and still be generative towards those around you.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I want to teach them like that aspect of it, like I guess the masculinity aspect of it, but in a way where it's not fake. Because most masculinity is fake. It's macho. It's look at me, look at my chest, like, you know what I'm saying? It's not like.
Well, that's the thing is they're going to be able to see you first off, see that you're being whatever it is that you're saying, right? You're saying I'm treating you like I treat myself, so they'll be able to see, well, he walks his walk. Right, he's not bullshitting me because kids see it better than anybody else. They see right through it, and they'll see, okay, well, Rome's telling me to do this, but he's not willing to do this himself. He's full of shit. And also, like you're saying, people just have this sort of wrong idea of what it means to be masculine, what it means to be, quote, alpha, right? Like when you look at it like an alpha chimp, the alpha chimp is not the one that's just beating up everybody else and being mean. It's the one that's takes care of everyone else. Yeah, it'll be macho if it needs to be and stand up for the tribe, right? But it'll also be the one that's going to take care of the others to make sure they're looked after too. And so, right, giving them the right view of what it means to be, like that right touch of masculinity.
Yeah.
We
don't need more macho. We don't need more ego. We need less. We need to just be better. Not more, but better. Not faster, not stronger, but better.
Rome, so it's Hero Academy, and it's in Tamarindo if people are there. Is there a website they can look at as well?
It's bjjincostarica.com.
Awesome.
If they type in bjjincostarica.com, or if they type in BJJ in Costa Rica, like they'll find us for sure.
Awesome, dude.
Hero Academy.
And anybody can train there, right? There's classes.
Anybody could drop in. Anybody can train. We're a U.S.-based nonprofit, so we collect donations. We're also a Costa Rican nonprofit. We have a charter, and now we do camps. So Chewy was just down for a camp. We help you set up your camps. Like if you have digital students or you have physical students, we help you set up an awesome camp. And half the proceeds go to you, half the proceeds go to us, to the kids essentially, and everybody, and your people have the best vacation of their lives.
Awesome, dude. Awesome, brother.
Thank you, Rome. Thanks for
joining us, man.
Yeah,
guys, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you, everybody, for checking out this episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. Thank you to our guest, Rome, for joining us. If you guys love the podcast, head over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. We'd really appreciate that. Also, if you want exclusive content of the podcast, never before seen interviews, and just exclusive conversations with Chewy and our guests, head over to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast and subscribe on there. You will get a free Jiu-Jitsu Podcast t-shirt for signing up. So support the podcast that way. And guys, thank you all again. We'll see you next time for another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Podcast.